leave of the big silver screen for quite a long time while you raised your two sons.
That's right.
What a wonderful, wonderful option.
They got so tall.
Audrey Hepburn spent her life captivating the world with grace, elegance, and an unforgettable smile. But behind that timeless image was a woman who carried deep emotional scars, especially from one relationship she never truly recovered from. Years later, Audrey finally revealed the one man who broke her heart, exposing a painful chapter she had kept hidden for so long. Who was the man who left such a lasting mark on one of Hollywood's most beloved stars? Join us as we uncover the heartbreaking love story Audrey Hepburn rarely spoke about, and the truth that makes it even more devastating. The childhood heartbreak that shaped Audrey Hepburn forever. Long before Audrey Hepburn became the graceful Hollywood icon the world adored, her life had already been shaped by heartbreak, fear, and loss. The woman who would one day become a symbol of elegance wasn't raised in the fairy tale many people imagine. In fact, the deepest wound she ever carried had nothing to do with fame or failed romances. It began in childhood with someone who was supposed to love and protect her. Looking back, it's not hard to see how those early years quietly influenced the choices she would later make in love, including the relationship that would eventually leave her heart completely shattered. Audrey Hepburn entered the world on May 4, 1929, in Brussels, Belgium, born Audrey Kathleen Rustin. From the outside, she seemed to have every advantage a child could ask for. She came from an affluent family with aristocratic roots, lived in beautiful homes, and spent her early years moving between Belgium, England, and the Netherlands. Her upbringing exposed her to different cultures and languages from an early age, giving her a sophistication that would later become part of her charm on screen. Her mother, Baroness Ella van Heemstra, came from Dutch nobility, while her father, Joseph Victor Anthony Rustin, was British and worked in international business. Their lifestyle allowed the family to travel frequently across Europe, and for a while, Audrey's childhood appeared comfortable and secure. But beneath the polished surface, cracks were already beginning to form. As Audrey grew older, the tension between her parents became harder to ignore. Then, in 1935, everything changed. Without warning, Joseph walked out on the family. Audrey was only 6 years old. To most people, it may have looked like the end of a troubled marriage. But for Audrey, it became the defining heartbreak of her entire life. She never truly understood why her father left, and the questions that lingered afterward stayed with her well into adulthood. Years later, she would describe his departure as the single most traumatic experience of her childhood. The abandonment left scars that couldn't easily be seen. Friends believed it contributed to her lifelong fear of rejection and her desperate desire to create the stable, loving family she had lost so young. It was a pattern that would quietly follow her through many of her relationships. After the separation, Audrey's mother moved her to the Netherlands. Hoping to give her daughter some sense of normalcy, she enrolled Audrey in ballet lessons. Dance became more than just a hobby. It became an escape. When Audrey danced, she could forget the confusion waiting at home. The discipline of ballet gave her something she could control at a time when so much of her life felt uncertain. Unfortunately, Europe itself was changing just as rapidly. When World War II broke out in 1939, Audrey's mother believed the Netherlands would remain neutral, just as it had during the First World War. Believing it would be the safest place for her daughter, she brought Audrey back to Arnhem. That hope disappeared almost overnight. In May 1940, Germany invaded the Netherlands. Suddenly, even something as simple as Audrey's English-sounding name became dangerous. To avoid drawing attention, she began using the name Etta van Heemstra instead. The comfortable childhood she once knew vanished. The occupation transformed daily life into a constant struggle for survival. Then the war became even more personal. In 1942, Audrey's uncle was executed by the Nazis in retaliation for resistance activity. His death devastated the family and forced them to leave Arnhem for the nearby town of Velp. As the occupation tightened its grip, Audrey quietly performed ballet recitals, held in secret to raise money for the Dutch resistance, and is also believed to have helped deliver messages and supplies for those working against the Germans. She also witnessed scenes that would stay with her forever. Audrey watched Jewish families being rounded up and loaded onto trains bound for concentration camps. One memory haunted her above all others. She recalled seeing a young blonde boy standing with his parents on a railway platform, wearing a coat far too large for him as he boarded one of the trains. It was one child watching another disappear into unimaginable horror. By the winter of 1944, conditions had become almost unbearable. Food was desperately scarce during what became known as the Dutch Hunger Winter. Like countless other families, Audrey's household survived by grinding tulip bulbs into flour to bake makeshift bread and cakes. The prolonged starvation took a devastating toll on Audrey's health. She became gravely ill, and at one point, her survival was uncertain. After the war ended, penicillin ultimately saved her life. Although the war was finally over, its emotional damage didn't disappear. The frightened little girl who had lost her father endured hunger, witnessed unimaginable cruelty, and spent years wondering if tomorrow would come, had survived. But the experiences had quietly shaped the woman she was becoming. Behind the elegance, warmth, and dazzling smile the world would one day celebrate was someone who longed more than anything for security, loyalty, and lasting love. And as Audrey's remarkable career began to take off, those childhood wounds would follow her into adulthood, setting the stage for the relationship that would eventually break her heart in ways she never expected. The rise of Audrey Hepburn. When the war finally came to an end in 1945, Audrey was alive, but the years of hunger and hardship had left their mark. She was painfully thin, her health was fragile, and her family had lost much of the comfortable life they once knew. Determined to rebuild, Audrey and her mother moved to Amsterdam, where she threw herself into ballet training, convinced it could become her future. Money, however, was always tight. Her mother took whatever work she could find, including cooking and housekeeping, just to keep the family afloat. Audrey trained tirelessly, hoping her talent would one day change their fortunes. Ballet wasn't simply a dream anymore, it was her way forward. Before long, another opportunity came calling. Audrey earned a scholarship to continue her ballet training in London, and for the first time, she found herself chasing a future beyond the Netherlands. She supported herself however she could, taking small modeling jobs while continuing to study dance. But there was one heartbreaking reality she couldn't escape. Years of wartime malnutrition had permanently weakened her body. Despite her natural talent and dedication, she was told she would never become a prima ballerina. For many people, that kind of news would have ended the dream completely. For Audrey, it became the beginning of another one. Instead of giving up, she quietly shifted her focus to acting. At first, the roles were tiny. She appeared in stage productions, worked as a chorus girl, and accepted small parts in British films simply to keep moving forward. No one imagined that the soft-spoken young woman who had survived war would soon become one of Hollywood's brightest stars. Everything changed almost by accident. While filming a small movie in Monte Carlo, Audrey caught the attention of celebrated French author Colette, who immediately believed she was perfect to play the lead in the Broadway production of Gigi. The role introduced Audrey to American audiences and proved she possessed something that couldn't be taught. She had a rare combination of elegance, warmth, and vulnerability that drew people in. Hollywood quickly took notice. Then came Roman Holiday. Almost overnight, Audrey transformed from an unknown actress into an international sensation. Her performance opposite Gregory Peck charmed audiences around the world and earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress, making her one of the biggest new stars in the industry. The success opened every door imaginable. Over the next several years, Audrey built a career most actors could only dream of. Films like Sabrina, Funny Face, War and Peace, The Nun's Story, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and My Fair Lady turned her into a global icon. Her elegance influenced fashion, her kindness won over audiences, and her smile became one of the most recognizable in the world. From the outside, it seemed as though Audrey Hepburn finally had everything she had been denied as a child: fame, success, admiration, a future brighter than anyone could have imagined. But behind the cameras, the little girl who had watched her father walk away was still searching for the one thing she had wanted all along: someone who would stay. Searching for the love she never had. By the early 1950s, Audrey Hepburn had become one of Hollywood's brightest new stars. But while her career was taking off, her personal life was far more complicated. Behind the glamorous premieres and magazine covers was a woman searching for something much simpler than fame. More than anything, Audrey wanted a stable home, a devoted husband, and the loving family she had been denied as a child. That longing shaped almost every romantic decision she made. One of Audrey's earliest serious relationships was with wealthy British businessman James Hansen. Handsome, successful, and respected, Hansen seemed like the perfect match. The couple became engaged, and for a while, it looked as though Audrey had found the life she had always dreamed of. In fact, while she was filming Roman Holiday, she was also making plans for their wedding. But as her career exploded, reality began to set in. Audrey realized that marrying Hansen would likely mean living separate lives. His business demanded his attention, while her acting career was carrying her all over the world. She desperately wanted the relationship to work, but deep down, she knew love alone wouldn't be enough. Rather than enter a marriage that was already pulling in different directions, she made the painful decision to end the engagement before they reached the altar. It wasn't because she stopped loving him. She simply couldn't see a future where they could truly build a life together. Not long afterward, fate introduced her to someone else. At the British premiere of Roman Holiday, Audrey met actor and director Mel Ferrer. He was older, experienced, and deeply admired within the entertainment industry. Their connection developed quickly, and within a year, they were married in a quiet ceremony in Switzerland, far away from the media spotlight. For Audrey, it felt like a fresh beginning. The couple soon became one of Hollywood's most admired pairs, even appearing together in War and Peace. Audrey believed she had finally found the family she had always wanted. After enduring several heartbreaking miscarriages, she eventually gave birth to their son, Sean, a moment that brought immense joy into her life. Motherhood quickly became Audrey's greatest priority. Even as studios competed to cast her, she repeatedly turned down projects or rearranged her schedule so she could spend more time with her son. Friends often remarked that she seemed happiest not on movie sets, but at home with her family. Unfortunately, the marriage itself was beginning to unravel. As the years passed, rumors of infidelity surrounded both Audrey and Mel. Their relationship grew increasingly strained, and the distance between them became impossible to ignore. After 14 years together, they divorced in 1968, bringing an end to a marriage that had once seemed destined to last. The split left Audrey emotionally exhausted. Not long after, she found happiness again with Italian psychiatrist Andrea Dotti. The two met while she was on a Mediterranean cruise, and Audrey believed this relationship offered another chance at the peaceful family life she still longed for. They married in 1969, and a year later welcomed their son, Luca. For a while, everything appeared perfect. Audrey stepped back from Hollywood almost entirely, choosing family over fame. She devoted herself to raising her children and embraced a quieter life away from constant cameras and movie premieres. But history had a painful way of repeating itself. As time passed, reports of Andrea Dotti's repeated affairs with younger women began to surface. The betrayal devastated Audrey. After years of trying to make the marriage work, she finally accepted that it could not be saved. In 1981, after 12 years together, they divorced. By now, Audrey had experienced the collapse of 2 marriages. Yet, despite everything, she never stopped believing that genuine love was possible. Throughout different periods of her life, Audrey was linked to several well-known men. She developed close relationships with people she worked alongside, including actor William Holden, whom she deeply admired. The connection between them was undeniable, but they ultimately wanted different things from life. Audrey's dream of having children remained non-negotiable, and when she realized that future wasn't possible, she chose to walk away despite the emotional cost. She was also romantically linked to screenwriter Robert Anderson during a difficult chapter in her first marriage, and years later became close to actor Ben Gazzara while filming Bloodline. Those relationships reflected a woman searching for comfort during emotionally turbulent periods, but none provided the lasting security she craved. Then, when Audrey had almost stopped expecting lasting happiness, someone entered her life at exactly the right moment. In 1980, she met Dutch actor Robert Wolders. Their relationship began quietly and grew into something remarkably different from the romances that had come before. There were no grand Hollywood headlines, no pressure to prove anything to the world, and no frantic chase for success. Instead, there was companionship, understanding, and a deep emotional connection. Although they never officially married, those closest to Audrey often described Robert as the love who finally brought her peace. They built a life together away from the spotlight, traveling, enjoying simple moments, and supporting each other through life's challenges. For Audrey, it was the calm she had spent decades searching for. The heartbreaking part was that they didn't have nearly enough time together. In the early 1990s, Audrey's health began to decline after she was diagnosed with a rare form of abdominal cancer. Robert remained by her side throughout her illness, caring for her until the very end. When Audrey Hepburn passed away in January 1993 at the age of 63, he was still the man holding her hand. For someone whose childhood had been defined by abandonment and whose adult life had been marked by disappointment, Audrey finally found the kind of unconditional love she had always hoped existed. But the relationship that left the deepest emotional scar wasn't one of her marriages. Long before Hollywood, long before the awards, and long before the world knew her name, the first man to truly break Audrey Hepburn's heart was the father who walked away and never came back. Behind Audrey Hepburn's most troubled productions. Years after Sabrina brought Audrey Hepburn and William Holden together, fate reunited them in Paris for another film. This time, it was Paris When It Sizzles, a romantic comedy that looked glamorous on screen but proved to be far less magical behind the scenes. While audiences saw effortless chemistry and the beauty of Paris, those working on the production witnessed a shoot plagued by delays, bad weather, health problems, and growing frustrations. On paper, the project had all the ingredients for success. The film paired Audrey Hepburn and William Holden once again, featured legendary playwright Noel Coward, and was directed by Richard Quine from a screenplay by George Axelrod. Set against the breathtaking backdrop of Paris, the story followed a struggling screenwriter who recruited his secretary to help him act out romantic scenes as he desperately tried to finish a screenplay before his deadline. It sounded like a winning formula. Reality turned out to be very different. Although the movie has since developed a loyal following among Audrey Hepburn fans, it struggled when it was first released and failed to make much of an impact at the box office. Ironically, one of the reasons production moved so quickly was because Audrey was already in France filming Paris When It Sizzles, making it convenient for Paramount to keep her there for another Paris-set film, Charade. The two movies couldn't have been more different, but the scheduling allowed the studio to maximize her time overseas. Behind the scenes, however, things were becoming increasingly difficult. Despite later describing the experience positively in interviews, Audrey's son, Sean Hepburn Farrer, would later reveal that his mother wasn't particularly fond of making the film. According to him, the production taught her an important lesson. Just because filming felt relatively easy at times didn't necessarily mean the finished movie would be successful. That wasn't the only problem. Mother Nature became one of the production's biggest obstacles. Paris experienced constant rain throughout filming, creating endless interruptions and forcing the crew to repeatedly adjust shooting schedules. The weather became such a running joke that cast and crew nicknamed the movie Paris When It Drizzles, a title that many felt reflected the experience more accurately than the official one. As frustrating as the rain was, it wasn't the production's biggest headache. William Holden was going through one of the most difficult periods of his career. Once considered one of Hollywood's most dependable leading men, he was now struggling both personally and professionally. His well-known battle with alcohol had begun affecting his work, and filming quickly became unpredictable. Crew members often found themselves waiting as Holden dealt with hangovers or poor health. His condition reportedly caused repeated delays, making an already difficult schedule even harder to manage. At one point during production, he became seriously ill, forcing filming to slow down even further. Then things took another dramatic turn. Near the end of production, Holden crashed his Ferrari into a wall and suffered injuries that left him wearing a splint. Because of the accident, parts of the movie had to be rewritten, and one elaborate Dracula-inspired sequence was significantly shortened since Holden could no longer perform as originally planned. Even with those setbacks, production continued moving forward. The film also included several fun surprises that many viewers still enjoy discovering today. Legendary actress Marlene Dietrich made a brief cameo appearance, popping up so quickly that many audiences completely missed her the first time around. Tony Curtis also appeared in an unexpected role, adding another familiar Hollywood face to the already impressive cast. Filmmakers even filled the movie with playful references to Audrey's own career. Sharp-eyed fans noticed nods to Breakfast at Tiffany's and My Fair Lady, almost as if the film was celebrating Audrey's remarkable rise to stardom. Frank Sinatra's voice could also be heard on the soundtrack, providing another subtle connection to Funny Face, where he and Audrey had worked together years earlier. But if Paris, When It Sizzles, had its share of production problems, those challenges were nothing compared to the behind-the-scenes drama Audrey experienced during Sabrina nearly a decade earlier. By the time Billy Wilder began casting the film, Audrey had become Hollywood's newest sensation following her Oscar-winning performance in Roman Holiday. Wilder immediately knew she was perfect for the title role and hoped to surround her with equally charismatic leading men. Originally, Cary Grant was his first choice to play Linus, the older brother. When Grant declined, Humphrey Bogart stepped into the role instead. That decision changed the atmosphere on set almost immediately. Bogart never seemed comfortable with the production. He disliked playing romantic comedy, openly questioned Billy Wilder's constant script revisions, and reportedly made little effort to hide his frustration. His irritation wasn't limited to the director. He also clashed with his co-stars. Bogart reportedly grew impatient with Audrey's working style, believing she required too many takes compared to his own fast-paced approach. At the same time, he had little affection for William Holden, whom he had known for years. Their strained relationship carried over into the production, creating noticeable tension among the cast. Billy Wilder found himself trying to balance strong personalities while continuing to rewrite scenes throughout filming. Adding to the pressure, Holden's packed schedule meant he had to leave before Wilder had even settled on the film's ending. With his leading man departing early to begin work on another movie, Wilder was forced to rewrite major portions of the final act, eliminating possibilities he had originally considered. For a filmmaker known for carefully controlling every detail of his productions, it was an unusually chaotic situation. Looking back, it's remarkable that Sabrina became such a beloved classic, considering everything happening behind the cameras. Likewise, Paris, When It Sizzles may not have enjoyed the same success, but its troubled production tells a fascinating story of its own. From relentless rain and unexpected injuries to difficult personalities and constant production hurdles, both films prove that creating movie magic is often far messier than audiences ever realize. On screen, everything looked polished, effortless, and romantic. Behind the scenes, it was a completely different story. The man who broke Audrey Hepburn's heart. Before her death, Audrey Hepburn finally acknowledged the one man who had broken her heart more deeply than anyone else. It wasn't one of her two husbands. It wasn't one of the many famous men she was linked to over the years. It was William Holden, the Hollywood leading man she believed she could have spent the rest of her life with. Their love story had everything it needed to last except for one heartbreaking truth that neither of them could change. By the time Audrey met William Holden on the set of Sabrina in 1953, she was one of Hollywood's brightest new stars. Fresh off her Academy Award-winning performance in Roman Holiday, studios were eager to cast her in everything. Holden, meanwhile, was already an established leading man, with films like Sunset Boulevard and Stalag 17 behind him. On paper, they were simply co-stars brought together for another romantic comedy. Behind the cameras, however, something much more powerful was beginning to unfold. Their connection was immediate. The more time they spent together, the closer they became. They found excuses to see each other away from the busy film set, sharing quiet dinners, private conversations, and stolen moments whenever they could. Audrey admired Holden's confidence and warmth, while Holden found himself completely captivated by her elegance, kindness, and quiet strength. Before long, the relationship had become deeply personal. For Audrey, this wasn't a casual romance. She had spent most of her life searching for the stable family she never had growing up. After losing her father as a child and surviving the horrors of war, she wasn't interested in temporary relationships. She wanted a husband, children, and a home filled with the love she had always longed for. As their relationship deepened, Holden reportedly made it clear that he wanted a future with her. There was only one problem. William Holden had undergone a vasectomy years earlier. When he finally told Audrey the truth, everything changed. The news devastated her. More than anything else in the world, Audrey dreamed of becoming a mother. She had imagined raising several children and had even talked about stepping away from Hollywood one day to focus entirely on family life. Suddenly, the future she had pictured with Holden no longer seemed possible. Faced with an impossible choice, Audrey made one of the hardest decisions of her life. She ended the relationship. It wasn't because the love had disappeared. If anything, that made the decision even more painful. Audrey knew that staying with Holden meant giving up the one dream she had carried since childhood. As heartbreaking as it was, she couldn't bring herself to sacrifice the chance of becoming a mother. For Holden, the breakup was devastating. Friends later recalled that he never truly got over Audrey. Determined to bury his heartbreak, he threw himself into a reckless lifestyle, drinking heavily and pursuing countless relationships. Yet those closest to him believed much of it was an attempt to distract himself from losing the woman he genuinely wanted to spend his life with. While Holden struggled to move on, Audrey tried to do the same. Not long after the breakup, she married actor Mel Ferrer, hoping to build the family she had always dreamed about. But the road to motherhood proved far more painful than she ever expected. Audrey endured multiple miscarriages and even suffered a stillbirth before finally welcoming her first son, Sean, in 1960. Becoming a mother brought her enormous happiness, but the emotional toll of those losses stayed with her for years. Her marriage to Ferrer gradually began to fall apart as rumors of infidelity surrounded the relationship. Eventually, Audrey sought comfort elsewhere before the marriage officially ended, bringing another painful chapter in her search for lasting happiness to a close. Then came an unexpected reunion. Nearly a decade after Sabrina, Audrey and William Holden found themselves working together once again on Paris When It Sizzles. By then, both had tried to move on with their lives, but seeing each other again reopened old emotions that neither had completely left behind. The production was difficult from the beginning. Holden's drinking had become increasingly severe, affecting both his health and his work. There were days when filming slowed because he wasn't in condition to perform, and his personal struggles became impossible for those around him to ignore. Despite everything, Holden's feelings for Audrey had clearly never disappeared. One evening during filming, overcome with emotion, he reportedly climbed a tree outside her dressing room in hopes of seeing her. It was a dramatic reminder that, despite the years that had passed, he was still deeply in love with her. Audrey, however, knew there was no future waiting for them. What they had lost years earlier could not be recovered. Their paths separated once again. Audrey later married Italian psychiatrist Andrea Dotti and welcomed her second son, Luca, in 1970. Although she finally had the children she had always dreamed of, the marriage was troubled by repeated reports of infidelity and eventually ended in divorce as well. Years later, Audrey finally found lasting companionship with Dutch actor Robert Wolders. Unlike the turbulent relationships that came before, theirs was built on peace, friendship, and mutual understanding. Although they never officially married, those closest to Audrey often described Robert as the partner who brought her the happiness she had searched for throughout her life. William Holden's story ended far more tragically. In 1981, after years of battling alcoholism, he suffered a fatal accident in his home. He was only 63 years old. Audrey was deeply saddened by the news of his death, knowing that a man she had once loved so completely was gone forever. In the years that followed, Audrey devoted herself to humanitarian work with UNICEF, finding purpose in helping children around the world. It was a cause that reflected the compassion she had carried throughout her life and the deep value she placed on family and childhood. Looking back, Audrey Hepburn experienced fame beyond imagination, won nearly every major award in entertainment, and became one of Hollywood's most beloved icons. Yet, when it came to love, the relationship that lingered in people's memories wasn't simply because it ended. It was because two people found each other at exactly the wrong time. Had circumstances been different, Audrey Hepburn and William Holden might have become one of Hollywood's greatest love stories. Instead, they became one of its greatest heartbreaks. What Audrey Hepburn movie is still your favorite till this very day? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.